Listeners, since we ended our first season dedicated to fairy tale theater, we lost one actress who was very supportive of the podcast behind the scenes, the beautiful Valerie Perrine, or better known to us as Tina from the Three Little Pigs.
Yeah, a lot of our listeners might not be aware of this, but she was in contact with us behind the scenes for a long time. She knew all about the podcast. She declined to appear on it because of health reasons, which Eric and I totally respected, but she was very kind, very supportive, gave the entire podcast her blessing, which she did not need to do. So it was very sad news to learn of her passing.
Yeah, and she's one of my favorite memories of fairy tale theater is Tina, Tina.
She's my favorite in Three Little Pigs. We covered it when we did that episode. That's my family's personal favorite, and we all had our favorite. My mom's favorite was Paul, my dad's favorite was Buckwolf, and my personal favorite was always Tina. And apparently, I know every single one of her lines and can do it in exactly the correct cadence. I adore her performance in Three Little Pigs so much, but also, she was an Oscar nominated actress. She was in Superman. She's just a great loss. A great loss.
Yes, and we couldn't do this new season without dedicating our premiere episode. This is a special episode because this is our second season, our second series of films that we're covering, and we couldn't start that without giving some recognition to Valerie because she did pass in the meantime of our hiatus.
Yeah. We just wanted to dedicate our premiere episode to her as kind of a thank you for all the support and love she gave to us. So, with that said, please enjoy season 2, episode 1 of Rumpelstiltskin. Welcome to tonight's tale, a fairy tale podcast, which is still a little odd to say. We are no longer a fairy tale theater podcast. That was season 1. We are now transitioning into season 2, where we are covering canon movie tales. I am your host, Emily.
I'm your host, Eric.
And for our premiere episode, we're joined by our friend Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Orange County, California.
Lovely to have you back, Derek. Now we are going to start our season 2 with the very first canon movie tale that was ever released and is probably the most widely known, Rumpelstiltskin. So I want to start by just asking everyone, how familiar are you with the canon movie tales in general? This is the theme of our season 2, so I'm interested to hear everyone's answer. Derek?
Oh, I am hugely familiar with this series. I grew up watching these tapes. I would rent them from the video store, and they used to come on the Disney Channel all the time back in the 80s when Disney wasn't producing original content for the Disney Channel. They used to get all kinds of stuff. I think a lot of people came into Pippi Longstocking and various other
Oh, wow.
things from other companies on the Disney Channel, but these were definitely a huge part of my childhood. Absolutely.
Did you have any that you saw more frequently than others when you were a kid?
Yes, I definitely saw Rumpelstiltskin. Oh, well, actually, I copied. My parents copied a tape off of television for me to watch, so I had Rumpelstiltskin, and then I feel like Snow White I saw often enough that I was very familiar with it. And then, of course, later I was collecting the VHSs. For the longest time, they were completely unavailable other than the original VHS releases. So I collected those later. And then when the DVDs came out, of course, I grabbed those. So yeah, I've always had these.
Oh, I hear you. Eric?
I'm pretty much in the same boat as Derek. I grew up with this series, mostly from watching either ones that I saw on TV. I only owned this one, Rumpelstiltskin, and Puss in Boots on VHS. The rest of them I probably saw on the Disney Channel when they aired in the early 90s. because I was born when this very first one came out. So in 87, that was the year I was born. So yeah, so this was actually the only one to premiere, this one, Rumpelstiltskin, as from what I understand. It premiered in April 1987, and it was these were actually planned to be big theatrical releases, and they were, they had pretty high budget, 1.5 million budget for each film, probably
That is
mostly
big.
through, yeah, it is a big budget. So probably mostly for the talent and for the location, I would say.
Yeah,
But
they were all filmed in Israel.
yeah, so they're really pretty to look at, and I remember them always being really cool because they were musicals and they were full-length films and they were live action. So it was like so different from anything else that was fairy tale related back then. Obviously, fairy tale theater was, but they weren't musicals and they weren't full length. So yeah, but so yeah, it was
Very
supposed to be a whole big long series, and what I understand, there were supposed to be like 16, and I think they only ended up making 9 of them, and this was the only one that came out in the theater, and it wasn't received very well. So they were like, "Nope, just kidding. We're not going to be releasing these in the theater."
right.
And that's
The
it.
others were like video released, and then we saw them on TV. Yeah.
Have you all seen this book? This was
Oh,
the
Oh,
this
I know
was
what you're
this
talking about.
this was the press book that was released for Rumpelstiltskin, and it's this gorgeous. It's they really had plans. They wanted to make a big deal out of this, so they released this gorgeous picture book.
Aussie, that's beautiful.
It's great, but so it talks all about the production of Rumpelstiltskin, but what they did here at the end of this book, Canon was notorious for producing posters. They would put together a poster for a movie. They had no clue what the movie was about or what it was going to be, but they would put together an amazing poster, get the financing, and then they would make the movie based off of. So they were so funny. So at the end of this book are all the posters for the planned movie tales that they were going to do.
These are
All
amazing.
all 16 of them. They're detailed here in this beautiful press
Derek,
book.
for the sake of our listeners, can you just list the 16 episodes really quick?
Yeah, let me see. The titles here
I
are
know Cinderella's in there.
Stop it. The titles here are Sleeping Beauty, Robinson Crusoe, Beauty and the Beast, The Pied Piper, Hansel and Gretel, Snow White, Gulliver's Travels, Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella. There's the beautiful artwork for Cinderella. Puss in Boots, Little Red Riding Hood, The Frog Prince, The Emperor's New Clothes, Heidi, and Treasure Island.
They had big plans.
They definitely had plans. And then did you ever see these? They had
Yes.
the read
Yes.
along storybooks that they put out.
I absolutely, that was going to be my answer to the question, which was how familiar was I with the canon movie tales? And I grew up, I knew Rumpelstiltskin and I knew Frog Prince. Those were the two I knew, but I had no idea that those in any way, shape, or form were related to each other. I just never put them together. But my sister and I had the audio tapes and storybooks of Sleeping Beauty and Beauty and the Beast. So I knew
Ah,
those two were related, but I hadn't put them together as a series like mentally until I was in high school. So I didn't fully appreciate the series as a whole until I was older. Now, as our listeners know, back in the day, I had a fairy tale theater website. Way, way, way back in the day, I actually also had a Canon Movie Tales website.
oh wow.
I did. It was very bare bones and pretty pathetic. I put it up and then I put up a fairy tale theater one. The fairy tale theater one required a lot more work. It kind of became a monster and it required a lot of traffic. So I kind of let the Canon Movie Tales one go. I was focusing on fairy tale theater, and this was back in the day when you had guest books. In the meantime, some other girl put up a Canon Movie Tales website, and people were messaging me going, "Your site is an insult to the other one who put up a Canon Movie Tales." I'm like, mine was first, but all right, never mind. I just took it down. I'm like, she can have it. So as far as I know, that website is completely dead. Maybe someone who's good at Wayback Machine can find it, but I I did let it go in favor of the Fairy Tale Theater website. I stand behind that decision. I couldn't do both. But canon movie tales have always been a big part of my heart because I did grow up with some of them. Rumpelstiltskin, Frog Prince, the biggest ones, and then Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast. And then when I found out about the whole series, dang, it was the hardest one for me to track down, ironically, was Snow White.
Oh, how funny. For me, it was Frog Prince. I was able to find all the VHSs, but that one was hard to track down.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk about Rumpelstiltskin tonight. And what is the very first thing that springs to mind when you think of the canon movie tale Rumpelstiltskin, Derek?
The VHS, that box art with Billy Barty and Amy Irving. I saw that in the video store when I was a little boy, and I wanted to see that movie so bad, and so we rented it. But I just remember that image, that picture. It's just burned into my mind.
I love that.
Yeah, it probably had the most beautiful artwork, I would say. That was a cover to remember for sure. I always remember really liking this one.
The first thing that sprang to my mind when I thought about this canon movie tale was Amy Irving. Oh my goodness, definitely Amy Irving. I remember watching her as a little girl and I wanted to be her and I wanted to have that dress and sing in the garden, which I'm sure Eric will find very funny because that's so not me. I am definitely not a country girl. I'm very much the definition of a city girl. At the time, I wanted to be Amy Irving and sing in that garden with the bunny rabbits. Okay. And I also remember this being like her whole family was involved. Her brother was the director, her mother played the queen, her stepfather played the miller. This was just a whole Irving family project. And years and years and years ago, back when I first put up my Fairy Tale Theater website, if that will give you some context, I did actually get in touch with David Irving via email. This was very long ago, but I did ask him some questions and he was very kind and did answer them. So as we go along, I'll tell you if I remember anything.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. So, how familiar are we all with the source material? I'll give the same answer I always gave last season, which was I know I read it, don't necessarily remember it. I do remember the prince being an invented character because, like, I remember fairy tale theater being much more accurate. Canon movie tales, like, invented the character of the prince and fleshed it all out more, but that's what I remember.
Yeah, I had all sorts of adaptations of this storybooks, and yeah, in every one of them, she married the king. Oh, I think the most beautiful one was that. Oh, was it Jane Yolen? I think it's a beautifully illustrated book. It was the one that was featured on Reading Rainbow, and where the little man flies away on a big wooden spoon. If that illustration rings any
Oh,
bells to
wow.
you.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like it had a brown book cover.
Yes, it was very much like oil paintings. Like the artwork
Hmm.
was just gorgeous. That was probably my favorite. And in that one, also she married the king, but in that one, he was a young, handsome king.
A young, handsome king who still threatened to behead her. Am I
True,
correct?
although I mean, who's as young and handsome as Ned Beatty from Fairy Tale Theater?
Yeah,
That's
I
hard to
mean,
top.
He gave me the ick in that. I'm not like that. That was not cute. He was like biting his finger, like, no. Goodbye, creepy. And then you had the creepy wizard coming out of nowhere too,
Oh, that big old queen. Oh my God.
with his Merlin costume.
you
No.
know, Rumpelstiltskin wasn't fairy tale theater's finest moment, okay? And for the record, Ned Beatty was a great actor. He really was. But a romantic lead, especially after threatening to kill his heroine, didn't work for me.
I can't get Deliverance out of my head when I think of Ned Beatty. That's
In
all.
Georgia, you want to talk deliver?
uh,
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I'm with you. Once you see that movie, it just does not leave your subconscious.